When you think of Zeus, the king of the gods in Greek mythology, who comes to mind as his queen? Hera, right? The powerful, often jealous goddess of marriage and family. But what if I told you that before Hera, or perhaps alongside her in some ancient tales, there was another? A figure so ancient, so foundational, that she was practically written out of the more famous stories. Today, we're pulling back the veil of time to uncover the story of Dione, Zeus's forgotten wife. Who was Dione? Her name itself gives us a clue. It's the feminine form of Dios, which is an ancient name for Zeus. So her name literally means goddess, or she of Zeus. This isn't just a coincidence. It points to a partnership that was fundamental in the earliest Greek beliefs. Unlike Hera, whose stories are filled with drama and conflict with Zeus, Dione represents a more harmonious, primordial pairing. Think of them as the original divine power couple, the Mr. and Mrs. of Mount Olympus, long before the soap opera began. To find Dione, we have to travel back to one of the most ancient and respected oracles in all of Greece, the Oracle of Dodona. This wasn't a fancy temple like the one at Delphi. Dodona was a sacred grove, centered around a giant, ancient oak tree. The priests and priestesses there, known as the Seloi and the Pleiades, would interpret the will of the gods by listening to the rustling of the oak leaves and the cooing of sacred doves. And who were the primary deities worshipped at this profoundly old site? Not Zeus and Hera, but Zeus and Dione. They were worshipped together as a divine pair, the source of all life and wisdom. This tells us that in some of the oldest religious practices of the Greeks, Dione was not a minor figure, but Zeus's equal partner. So how did this powerful goddess fade into the background? It's a classic case of stories changing over time. As Greek mythology evolved, different city-states rose to prominence, each with their own patron deities. The stories we're most familiar with today, the ones written by poets like Homer and Hesiod, largely came from a tradition that favored the Olympian gods as a family unit ruled by Zeus and Hera. In this version, Hera's role as the goddess of marriage and the rightful queen of Olympus was heavily emphasized. As her status grew, Dionysus began to shrink. The pantheon was getting crowded, and some of the older, more abstract deities had to make way for the vibrant, human-like personalities of the Olympians we know and love. But Dione didn't disappear completely. She was too important to be erased. Instead, her role was reimagined. In Homer's Iliad*, one of the cornerstones of Greek literature, Dione appears, but not as Zeus's wife. Instead, she is presented as the mother of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. In one famous scene, Aphrodite is wounded in battle while trying to protect her mortal son Aeneas. She flees to Mount Olympus crying, and who comforts her? Her mother Dione. Dione cradles her daughter, heals her wound, and listens to her complaints about the brutalities of war. It's a touching maternal moment. Here, Dione is shown as a compassionate, gentle figure, a titaness, and a comforting presence in the divine court. This reshuffling of the divine family tree allowed her to maintain a place of honor, even if it was a different one. The question of her parentage is just as complex as her relationship with Zeus. Some sources call her a Titaness, a daughter of Oceanus and Tethys, the primordial gods of the sea. This would make her an ancient elemental force of nature. Other accounts list her as a daughter of Uranus and Gaia, the sky and the earth placing her among the very first generation of gods. This uncertainty isn't a sign of confusion, rather it highlights her ancient origins. She belongs to a time before the family tree of the gods was neatly pruned and organized. She is a remnant of a more primal, elemental faith. So we have Dione, the wife and queen at Dodona, and Dione, the mother of Aphrodite in the Iliad*. Are these two different goddesses, or are they two sides of the same ancient coin? Scholars have debated this for centuries. One compelling theory is that as the worship of Hera grew, Dione's attributes were split. Her role as queen went to Hera. Her role as a mother goddess, a source of life and love, was funneled into her connection with Aphrodite. In some very old myths, Aphrodite herself was born from the sea foam, with no mother at all. Making Dione her mother was a way to give the goddess of love a more traditional lineage, and at the same time preserve Dione's name and importance. It's fascinating to see how myths can be like living things, adapting and changing to fit the culture that tells them. Dione's story is a perfect example. She represents an older layer of belief, A time when the divine feminine might have been represented not by a jealous queen, but by a name that simply meant goddess, the equal and opposite partner to the god. Her partnership with Zeus at Dodona was about cosmic balance, the union of the sky god with a powerful earth or water deity. While she may not have the dramatic flair of Hera or the instant recognition of Athena, Dione is a crucial piece of the puzzle of Greek mythology. She reminds us that the stories we know are just the final draft of a long, long process of storytelling. Beneath the surface of the familiar tales of the Olympians, there are older, deeper currents of belief. Dione is the whisper of a forgotten queen, the echo of a time when the divine world was structured differently. She is the mother who comforts, the ancient oracle who speaks through the rustling leaves, and the original partner to the king of the gods. The next time you hear a story about Zeus, remember that his history is more complex than it seems. Before the drama, before the jealousy, there was a partnership rooted in the most ancient soil of Greece. There was Dione. She might be forgotten, but her legacy is woven into the very fabric of mythology, a testament to the ever-changing nature of gods and the stories we tell about them. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive into the hidden corners of Greek mythology. If you enjoyed uncovering the story of Dione, please hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten tales. Let me know in the comments which obscure god or goddess you'd like to hear about next. See you in the next video.